Was there a personal element to this story? What did it mean to you to make the film, and why did you make it?
Mm. Very personal for me. I grew up, a Christian my whole life. My parents were in the ministry and in missions, and I'm actually probably one. You hear a lot of stories about pastors' kids or kids in ministry that kind of have baggage and run from the faith, but I never did. I had a very, very good experience. My faith gave me my foundation for my whole career, frankly, and living in Hollywood, working, in media here and in entertainment as a Christian. It's kind of like being on an island to some degree. So I felt like I spent the last 20 years of my career building relationships to get to the point where I could tell my stories of faith, and this movie in particular. And so it's very personal for me because it's my journey, it's my faith. This is my story. This is a story that gives me hope. I've had a lot of tough times in my life, and it was always my faith that sustained me. And I want this story. I want to spread it to families, to kids, to non-believing families, to get it everywhere, and find a way to frame it so that everyone can digest this story and want to lean in and listen. And music has a way of doing that, of softening the heart and of penetrating in a way that other things can't. And so yeah, it's extremely personal. Probably the most personal thing I'll ever do in my career, frankly.
Right, right. And is the so that personal element, is there a danger? I just wondered about parts of the film that it becomes a bit jokey, a bit light-hearted. Maybe
Mhm.
people don't associate these sort of deep spiritual truths
Mhm.
with jokes. So, like
Yeah.
Gabriel bumps his head.
Hmm.
Is there a danger that people might think it's being a bit flippant, possibly?
There's always danger in art, but my goal was always to make sure there's enough humor to keep kids engaged. And I know as a parent, if the movie is sad, downtrodden, nobody smiles, there's no levity or no laughter, they're not going to want to watch it. And so I very early on I let people know you can laugh, but then I also let you know I'm going to get reverent and serious when I need to. And even in that scene you mentioned, it starts off funny and whatever, so kids are like, okay, what's he going to say? And then he starts quoting scripture, and then it gets
Yeah, yeah,
serious. And so that was kind of that balance for sure that I had to try and reach. But it was interesting because this is something I've wrestled with the whole time, and it's very hard to make everyone happy. It really is. This is why we have denominations, right? Because we don't always agree on everything. And if I try to make it for everyone, I would have made it for nobody. So I try to just stay true to the vision God gave me. And I look, God is the ultimate creator, the ultimate creative. And you look at art throughout history, and the painters and the artists that have depicted the nativity scene. It's not necessarily biblically accurate. The wise men weren't there when Jesus was born. But we've accepted it
yeah,
because it's symbolic, it's beautiful, it's done with so much excellence. I mean, you look at the Sistine Chapel, and you can't help but know there's a God. The fact that one human could have done that, right? So
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like this is a musical, it's not a documentary. I say at the very beginning, this is inspired by
Mm,
a true story, which is
yeah.
important to me, that it's not a documentary. I know they didn't break into song and dance to pop music, fully aware. I know that the wise men weren't probably not the Three Stooges. I understand that. But it's also important to say that I think it's true. And
Mm,
this is just inspired by God's true word. And then I encourage, hopefully, this encourages kids to ask questions about their faith, and maybe
mm,
learn about faith for the first time.
yeah.
Because there's so many awesome Christmas movies that are beautiful and well done and sing along, but none of them talk about Christ. I'm like, we had to
Yeah,
fix that. I need one of those elf Santa movies that's actually about Christmas for parents to put their kids in front of. So
yeah.
I went for it. So love it or hate it, I followed my vision. I think that God gave me.
So you mentioned kids, so definitely it's sort of totally for kids. This, really, really
It's for
want kids,
families, I would say. Families,
families sort of
100%. Mhm.
get them
100%.
engaged with it. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I've got kids myself, and I was watching it. I was thinking, yeah, I think they'd get into this. I think they would enjoy the musical bits, and I think they'd have some good questions, good
Mhm.
faith questions as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
Um, like the guy, that is it Antipater,
Mhm.
the son of
Yeah.
Herod. One of his quotes I wrote down was, where is it? Uh,
Mhm.
yeah, he talked about the where kneeling before a peasant child. Is that
Yeah.
all there is? kneeling
Yeah.
before a peasant. What's that all about? I thought that was a great way of asking a question of maybe sort of building up to what people think. Yeah, what are you getting so bothered about a small
Hmm.
child to? And I was
Hmm.
thinking of my kids in particular would kind of that would resonate with them.
Yeah,
So
100%. And one of that character, and that's one that obviously is not in the biblical account.
no,
But I imagine if there look, it's a very condensed timeline. The whole movie, you have to kind of shrink it
yeah,
down.
yeah,
That's why the wise men are there. It's not a very good movie if the wise men show up 3 years after Jesus is born and the movie's over.
yeah.
It's a pretty terrible movie. So I kind of had to play with the timeline. And I have a very good friend who's an Oscar-winning director who I was really struggling with this, and I was telling, man, I'm just like, I need the wise men for comedy, but they weren't there. Like, what do I do? And he's like, stop worrying about if the timeline is accurate, because he said nobody's gonna remember this movie if the timeline's accurate. They're gonna remember it if it's great. Just make a great movie. So that freed me up for sure. But with Antipater, Antipas, who replaced Herod, he was a horrible person. He was worse than his father and beheaded John the Baptist. I couldn't make him a redeemable character.
Yeah,
So I was thought, well, as I was researching, I found Antipater was Herod's firstborn, raised in Rome, and it was
right.
very interesting that he was killed by Herod, by his father, the same year Jesus was born. I'm like, well,
Well,
that's fascinating. And I said, well, why? And it said, well, he tried to overthrow his father because he thought he was unfit to rule. And I said, well, that's
well,
fascinating. What if? What if he was one of the visitors? What if he was changed by
yeah.
coming in contact with Jesus like we are? What if he's us looking for a true king, looking for meaning? And then I backed into it that way. So that was my intent there.
That's really interesting, yeah. And in terms of getting Antonio Banderas to play Herod as well, I think he does a great job. I was wondering what inspired the way he played it. I was thinking like, Keith Richards out of the Rolling Stones, maybe a little bit.
That's good. Yeah, Mick Jagger is what I was thinking.
Mick
You
Jagger.
know, again, if I make a super grounded documentary style film, right? When they start singing pop songs, you're gonna be like, "This is the worst movie ever. This is cop rock. This is really bad." So you have to elevate things to justify them singing. So I had to elevate him as a character, and then what you take is truths and you inflate him. Well, I bet you the truth was he was a horrible narcissist, right? I'm sure the truth is he was probably the most famous person in the kingdom,
Yeah,
right? He was a rock star. He was their version of a rock star. And that's where that idea came from. Well, what if he sings a rock song then? And what if he thinks, mine is the kingdom, you know?
Oh,
And
I thought
and
that.
he
Sorry, go on. I
no,
was
go
just
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say that was I thought I was really clever where it was mine is the kingdom, mine is the power, mine is the glory, and then at the end the
Mhm.
wise men say, "Thine is the
I mean,
kingdom, thine is the."
yeah,
That was quite powerful. I thought it was
yeah,
that saw the link
yeah.
there was
It's
really
very
good.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
But
go
yeah,
on. Yeah.
the inspiration was very much that, and also you heighten it. It's you think of the villains of all the great Disney movies and things, and you want again, it's for kids to be engaged, and what Johnny Depp is to pirates, and Herod is to kings, and that's kind of what the inspiration was. And Antonio did a phenomenal job towing that line, and as soon as almost getting to cartoonish, but not, just holding back just enough. And this really is an animation come to life. That's really what it is at the end
Yeah.
of the day. So.
But there are some. Yeah, he is quite nasty. He does come across as quite nasty. That bit where he says, just go out and kill
Yeah. Yeah.
all the kids. That really jarred. I thought, wow,
Hmm.
really? Is that what you're thinking? So you've
Hmm.
got these kind of really serious issue. The other thing was at the end part where they were going through the gifts, gold, frankincense.
Hmm.
What does myrrh's basically a death sentence, isn't it? So
Hmm.
how do you describe that? I thought that was really really
Yeah.
interesting. So in terms of so you really went into it wanting to make a faith-based film and wanting people to grow in faith from it then was that what you
Absolutely.
say?
And
Yeah.
and I wanted to be a tool also, to show to non-believers. It really wanted it to be digestible for everyone. And it's hard to ask people to come to mass or to church. It's not hard to go. Let's go to the movies. That's an easy
Yeah,
task.
that's it.
And
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to do. And then maybe
Yeah.
once they see it, you know what, I'll come to mass with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
as long
so
as long as long as they don't think that's what mass is like every time.
No,
Yeah,
they won't. But you know what? You want to wake up the faith in people. You want to
exactly.
you want to inspire them in some way. And through a movie like this, again, this is not meant to replace the gospel. It's not meant to replace the Bible in any way, shape, or form. It's meant to start a conversation. It's meant to be something parents, grandparents, everyone can gather and watch at Christmas in a fun way and be reminded why they celebrate Christmas.
yeah,
and then go to mass, you know, and worship.
yeah, yeah.
Or if you've never done that, try it, because they're not going to be able to help but feel the power of the story by the end of the nativity scene.
Yeah,
They're going to feel it, with all the jokes and everything aside. When you get to that nativity scene, I've seen it 1,000 times. I still tear up,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's not
yeah,
because I did such a great job with it. It's because of what it
yeah,
signifies and what
yeah.
it means to me. And I think people are there, and there was a lot of Jewish people and atheists and all kinds of, and they were crying.
Really?
Why? Why are they crying?
Why are they crying? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so it's powerful. It's an
yeah.
amazing, it's the greatest story ever told.
So, what's it like to be a Christian in Hollywood? In that kind of secular culture.
Hmm.
What's it like?
It's a grind. It's kind of like going to work in the lion's den, every day
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
to some degree, and you can't always share what you believe. You can't really. You have to be pretty wise. What do you say?
mm,
Wise as a serpent. Whatever it
yeah,
is
yeah,
to say.
yeah,
I'm too tired. Um, but you really do. You need to have a lot of wisdom. Think before everything you say.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but kind of what I decided to do a long time ago when I moved here was number one, always tell people in a very subtle way I'm a Christian. I want it to
right,
be known, but then that's it, and then just do good work. Be
yeah, yeah,
reliable.
yeah,
Be the one that shows up on time, who does good work. That they need to hire because I'm excellent at what I do. Even if they don't want to hire a Christian, they're like, all right, but he's good.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and then, I want Christians to be known for their love. And in a town like this, that's really what people are looking for at the end of the day.
yeah.
And Christians too often are known for what they don't like rather than what they love.
That's true. That's
Um,
true.
and I just want to be somebody who tries to break down those stereotypes of how the world, especially Hollywood, perceives Christians. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
accurate, first of all. Most of us
yeah,
spend our days quietly loving people,
yeah.
but we're not very loud, are we?
No, not. But obviously you've not just made a film about someone doing some good thing, but this is a explicitly Christian film. You couldn't deny this is a film about Jesus. So in terms of there's the physical preparation, there's the kind of thought and the hard work that goes into it. But obviously with a film like this, there's got to be a lot of spiritual preparation as well. I'm guessing
Mm,
like prayer and
mm.
I've heard you speaking a bit about spiritual attack as well. Can you
Yeah.
speak a bit about that?
There's been a lot of attacks. I think anytime you try to bring a story like this to light, you're going to be attacked. I know that. I believe in that. I believe in the spiritual
Right.
realm and that
Yeah.
there are forces for good and evil. And this just I've seen it every day. It's been a battle, and I decided first day of shooting, and I made a commitment that I was going to do it every single day. Was start each day on my knees, literally on my knees. A lot of times we'll just pray and but no, to really be very reverent and just kind of lay it all down and say, God, use me and help me to be wise today and help me to fight for the things you want me to fight for, with the studio and with whatever, and to keep this vision on track and not my ego, not to get involved. And it was just every day releasing it to God. And so today is release day here in America, and I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of looking at it as my release day to the Lord.
Yes.
Just take
Yeah.
this movie. I've done my work. I fought the good fight. My work
Yeah.
is done now, except for some interviews.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard. It's a hard fought thing to bring a movie like this to theaters. It really is. You can't. It's hard to even put in words what we've done. It took me
Right.
17 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
And sort of personally, I bet that's a bit of a journey going through it personally, and sort of so it's what was that 17 years like then? So have you been trying to make it, or is it you've taken 17 years to actually put it together?
Well, both. I've been trying to make it and failing over and over again, and been frustrated and sold it and been shut down and sold it and shut down. And what I think I realized upon reflection is it would have been a very bad movie 17 years ago, and God knew that. He was preparing me for this, and when it was his timing is great, mine is not. And there's a line in the movie, I don't know if you caught, that Elizabeth says that patience is a great companion for faith. And I wrote
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
line
did.
out of my own journey, that I
Right.
needed to have patience, and that comes from faith, that God is in control. And I learned working with the best of the best in Hollywood, and God was just letting me learn and absorb and get better at the craft until I was ready to direct this movie.
Yeah.
When I first started out, I had no intention to direct or write it, just to do the music, because that's what I did back then. I was just a music
Right.
producer and songwriter. So, but he had other plans, and that's one of the themes of the movie, is God has much bigger plans for you than you can imagine. And Mary, the Mary I depict, is somebody who is strong, because I don't think God would have chosen a weak woman, but she's also someone who knows there's something stirring,
Mm,
something else for her, and she doesn't know what it is, because Gabriel hasn't come yet. So when her father marries her off to someone she's never met, which by the way was a huge slight in that culture,
mm,
so her anger is justified, because every girl she knows got to choose their own husband. Why am I forced to marry someone I haven't even met? So she
mm,
stands up for herself, but then she's obedient. And he says, "It's settled." And she goes, "Okay, as you wish." So she's righteous and upright, but she's strong. And these are themes that I think are really important today, and very modern and current. And
mm.
there's nothing more relevant than this story. I didn't even
Yeah.
make but those themes, and here she is thinking she wants to be a teacher or a rabbi because she loves the scriptures, you
Mm.
know. But no, God had a much bigger plan for her than
Yeah.
she could ever imagine.
I, I thought that was interesting to finish the film with those words sort of
Yeah.
over uh, spoken over. I thought that was
Mhm.
really interesting.
Yeah.
So just the last question. So how do you hope God uses this film? How do you hope it impacts people?
I think two things. The first one seems simple, but I hope that people are reminded what Christmas is about. That's a very simple one, but I think it's extremely important, because it's been hijacked by everything else.
Yeah.
We need to be reminded and set our hearts right at the beginning of the holidays. And that's one. And then two, I hope they walk away with a sense of joy, a meaningful joy, a deep joy, and a sense of hope in a dark world. We have hope, and
Yeah.
there is a light in this darkness, and the fact is, light needs darkness to shine. So
Yeah.
this, I think, movie and this story shines brighter than ever right now.